So according to historians, Trump may not be the worst president ever. He's got nothing to brag about, though, considering the position he's in as the fourth worst in history, and when you look at some of the others there. Nevertheless, this claim we keep hearing from his supporters about how he accomplished more than any other president in history. Well, what just has he accomplished? Let's talk about that in today's video. I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, and maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So a recent survey of historians by C-SPAN found that Trump might not be the worst president in our history. Those who rank below him, by the way, include Franklin Pierce, who is responsible for bleeding Kansas in the fight over slavery there, Andrew Johnson, who is the first president to be impeached and the president who ended Reconstruction, leading to really most of the problems that we've had since then, and James Buchanan, who literally fiddled while the Civil War was starting. So not exactly a group to be excited about. And indeed, Trump has a lot of things that people should be upset about. I mean, I don't need to talk about his response to the COVID crisis, which was absolutely laughable. And that's especially visible when you contrast that with the success that the Biden administration has had in addressing the pandemic. But what are some of the other things that are the legacy of the Trump administration? Well, the trade deficit was at its worst since George W. Bush was president. This was somebody who promised that he was going to get rid of our trade deficit. We also had the worst federal budget deficit ever. This is the guy who promised that he was going to get rid of the federal budget debt, right? He did deliver a massive tax cut to the ultra wealthy. So if you're into that type of thing, well, he did deliver on that. But what came along with it as a result is massive wealth inequality, which has only increased under his presidency. Despite his throwing children in cages and setting up American concentration camps for immigrants, the immigration rate actually continued to increase. And while Trump talked about America first, the American prestige at the end of his presidency was at an all-time low, according to a 25-nation survey conducted by the Pew Research Center. And by the way, I'm going to post links to all the support for this down below. And lastly, as seems to happen again and again when Republicans are presidents, he left office with the United States in an economic crisis. Time for the Democrats to come in and rescue the economy once again, I guess. But interestingly enough, despite his claims to the best economy ever, the economy was really only so-so before, with him creating less jobs than Obama created in the period directly before. And that doesn't even mention his foreign policy failures like abandoning our allies in Syria or allowing China to continue its rise, praising white supremacists in Charlottesville, his attacks on healthcare, his corruption, the revolving door administration. I mean, I've never seen an administration that had so many people come in and out of it into top positions. So much for him being a great manager. But in retrospect, Trump did accomplish one thing more so than just about anybody else. And if this is what you wanted, well, Trump delivered on it. And that is basically undermining American democracy. If you did not believe in democracy and wanted the United States to become an authoritarian right-wing dictatorship, well, Trump laid the rails for that. The blatant racism and sexism and the widespread attacks on democracy across the country by Republicans would not have been tolerated just a few years ago. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that the Voting Rights Act was reauthorized on a bipartisan basis by massive majorities in both houses of Congress. And now the Republicans are using their filibuster power to stop anything from passing that would address the attack on voting rights in Congress, while passing all kinds of legislation at the state level that's undermining voting rights, and having their right-wing majority in the Supreme Court stand in the way of any efforts to allow people of color to vote more easily. The idea that an election is fair only when he wins is something that can be traced directly to Trump. I mean, remember that debate between him and Hillary Clinton when he said that he would only respect the election results if he won.
You have been warning at rallies recently that this election is rigged and that Hillary Clinton is in the process of trying to steal it from you. Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, Do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time.
And that has been a refrain throughout his presidency and into the period after. And it led directly to the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, 6 months ago. So I guess it's not entirely fair for us to say that Trump accomplished nothing. In fact, he accomplished a lot, but it was incredibly destructive. And it will be felt for generations in our country to act decisively to address the harm that has been done to our democracy by Trump and his acolytes. And if we do not, then American democracy, within relatively short order, is probably going to be a thing of the past. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to hear your comments down below. It'd be a huge help if you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.